Welcome, everyone, to the Thunder Craps inaugural podcast, kind of. I am your host, Josh Kaiser, and I am joined today by Kyle Hogan.
I mean, way to start this with a little bit of ambiguity. Like, I'm confused. What's going on, everybody?
And Mr. Josh Haddix.
Those are both horrible openers. I'm just going to throw that out there.
It couldn't have been any worse. I think I botched this just about as bad as the inaugural episode of Thunder, which, of course, we covered last week on our special edition of the Monday Night Tours. But now here we are. We're doing the Thunder Craps podcast, where we go through an episodic review of WCW Thunder week by week. We'll get there. We will get there. We'll get, we're trying different rotations, different hosts, different that, just like Thunder did. One week it's Tony Schiavone, the next week it's Mike Tenay hosting the show. We're working through the bugs, right?
Right, yeah. I mean, just give us a little bit of time. We've only been doing podcasts for about 2 years now.
I was just about to say that. This is our first podcast, guys, so
go easy on us.
It may not be our first podcast, but it is our first podcast under the Thunder Craps name, right? So, new name, new look, new story, new set, the whole ordeal. No? All right.
Nothing. Didn't know. Sorry, I'm if I'm going to be staggeringly Marshall, I didn't know where to drop myself in there. I'm not as good as Bobby the Brain, who always has something on reserve. So I got high hopes for this podcast, but let's see if we can limp our way through with one crutch like DDP. Good. And see if we can get through this. Good
Lord, we call it Thunder Craps podcast, and it's already a shit of a podcast start for us.
It's already a shit storm. You see that?
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that would have been good, Kaiser. Okay, yeah, you got to get.
Why don't we start the beginning being welcome to Thunder Craps, a shit storm of wrestling.
There you go.
There we go.
Like that. I think we're openly brainstorming in the middle of. This was not part of the rundown, by the way.
This is all totally professional. So next week when I say welcome to the Thunder Craps podcast, a shit storm, I still fucking don't know what I'm doing. So. We'll work on it.
Do it in the mirror, all right?
No, that is our podcast. We're going to go week by week now on WCW Thunder. Of course, we did the January 8th, 1998 edition last week. Now this week, we're back here. It's January 15th. They're going to 2 hours. They're hopefully getting their groove, and hopefully we're going to get our groove. And, as far as where to subscribe and all that, we'll have that information for you soon. By the time you probably start listening to this, we'll have that stuff out there. But in the meantime, I think we're on Twitter at Thunder Craps. Kyle, is that correct?
That is true. At Thunder Craps.
So look for us there, follow us there, and you get all the information. We'll probably be on iTunes and Google Play and all that stuff. That said, let's just get right into it. It is January 15th, 1998. And we open up with kind of a cold opening to the show. It's a replay from Nitro, and we got our weatherman for the week, DDP, and he says, there's a storm brewing for Thursday night. There's gonna be crackling of thunder from the torture rack of Lex Luger and some other lightning thunder related puns. But basically, DDP and Lex Luger are tagging up against Kevin Nash and Randy Savage. That's your main event probably for tonight on Thunder, and that's your opening. And then they cut into the actual opening of the show, and you get Mike Tenay, as I alluded to a little bit earlier. He says, we're live from a foggy Lakeland, Florida in the Sunshine State. It just doesn't feel the same without Tony Schiavone opening this, and I don't know if you guys felt the same way or not.
I think the sound guys felt the same way because they didn't know how to turn on Mike Tenay's mic at the beginning of this show too. No one even noticed that? Like, when he started talking, like, his volume was like at 10%.
Yeah,
I did crazy low.
It was a very bizarre startup. It just didn't feel right to me.
Right, and Goldust wasn't even there.
Nice.
Sorry, I'm gonna say that every time you say bizarre. Just to let you know that.
But the big story, the commentary is talking about Kevin Nash, Macho Man Randy Savage. There is dissension amongst the NWO, especially between those two, and now they're tagging again with each other tonight in the main event. Can they coexist? We'll find out as the show builds. And from that, we go to our second replay. So again, this is 2 weeks in a row where Thunder seems like it's just a replay highlight show. And this time it's replay of the Giant speaking with Nick Lambros, who's all of a sudden getting one of the biggest pushes in wrestling as the WCW Lawyer. And they say that there's a $1.5 million
Performance bond.
Yes, performance bond. Thank you. I couldn't think of the term that they used. That says if Nash does not show up for his match, it's sold out. Of course, he no-showed the Starrcade match for the Giant. He will have to dish out $1.5 million. And Haddix, you brought up a point like, how about he just loses his job if he doesn't come?
Dude, literally, I thought it was weird. This whole thing I thought was odd, and that was my whole, argument. Is hey, I'm not going to show up tonight. Well, okay, well then you're fired. Like,
your job is to come in and wrestle. Just fucking come in and wrestle.
Like, I'm not going to make you put $1.5 million down. I'm going to fire you. Like, I don't know what that.
Well, I think it's funny about that is that's a large sum of money. Like, I mean, once again, I'm sure Nash was making plenty off of Ted Turner back in the day, but to basically say, hey, if you don't show up to this match, we're going to take $1.5 million from you. It almost seems like firing him would have been a cheaper thing for Nash. So maybe like this was even a bigger punishment. You know what I mean? Yeah,
no doubt. So then they show later the NWO is out there. Hogan and Nash have their lawyer, and they say that that Giant must match that sum. So now all of a sudden the Giant has to put up a $1.5 million.
Which again makes absolutely no sense.
And then the added stipulation, of course, that the Giant cannot touch Kevin Nash between now and Sold Out. So obviously this is going to lead to Kevin Nash taunting the shit out of the Giant, basically chicken shit heel kind of stuff, trying to get him to lay a hand on him. So that part of the feud I kind of appreciate, but the money end of it, I just was like, whenever they do that, like when they did the, I don't know if you guys remember when they had the Terry Invitational tournament on Raw, and it was, they were fighting for the managerial. They're doing a ladder match. I think it was the Hardys and Edge and Christian were wrestling for the managerial services of Terry Runnels and like $10,000 in a bag. Like whenever they put money out there, like that to me is something that they did like way back in the like regional days of wrestling, and it just doesn't. It doesn't. I don't care. People are wrestling for $10,000. Like we know you guys making plenty of money. Like the money end of it just doesn't do it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can agree with that.
So then after that, we actually go back to Thunder, and it's Tony Schiavone, of course, not on the commentary booth. He's sort of playing the role of Mean Gene here, and he's got the Giant, who again still doesn't come out with music. So I think that's his gimmick, and I'm okay with it. I kind of like it. It's different. And the Giant says he has a surprise for Kevin Nash, and it's hooked to his arm, which is hooked to his elbow, which is hooked to his shoulder, and it's the choke slam. And then
that's not bad for him. I feel like that's not bad. I think he's actually been half decent on the mic. I don't know if he's writing his own shit or if Hogan's like, dude, you should say this. But I actually want to give Paul White at least a little bit of credit where it's due. It's 1998. I think he started in the company at 95. I actually don't think he cuts a bad promo. Like he does a good enough job with his words that he doesn't stumble around. He's a lot better than someone like Lex who's been in the company for 20 years.
Fair enough, but I just thought that line was funny because he just kept talking about like basically the anatomy of an arm and where the choke slam begins and where
the shoulder bone connected to the elbow bone connected to the choke slam.
But the only thing that makes even less sense is at this point the Flock show up, led by Lodi carrying a sign that says Nash rules and Giant drools, and the entire Flock, with the exception of Raven, come in and just get their shit kicked in by the Giant, including Kidman, who like basically gets launched into the first row.
Dude, that was impressive.
He took a pretty. I was watching the bump, like he kind of nailed his knee against the guardrail. I always like those types of stunts or like those spots because I always wonder when you toss somebody, anything can happen. Like you can have like even just be off by like a slight, half an inch, and you could have like a broken kneecap, for being thrown like that. Like you have to have that trust from. I think it was Hammer was the one. Van Hammer was the one who was in the crowd with him that he threw him at.
Right. Yeah.
Like so, you have to trust Van Hammer to take care of Kidman, and because we've seen, you and I have definitely seen Kaiser enough luchador matches where the guy does a big spot off the top rope to the outside and nobody catches the guy and it really spills out. And I always get scared about things like that because that could easily sideline somebody for months.
Yeah, no, it's a good spot, definitely. Naturally, of course, Kevin Nash is going to come out. He's going to get in the Giant's face, and the Giant, of course, is going to hold his hands up in the air like, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you. Nash will continue to talk shit, and then he throws hot coffee in the Giant's face, which I think one of the commentary, someone on commentary says that the only thing hotter than the coffee is the Giant's temper now, as his blood's boiling.
How did they even know that was actually coffee? I mean, I know it was like a coffee cup.
Because it was coffee. You just assume that's what you're supposed to be.
I've had hot coffee on my face before. I react much differently than the way the Giant did. It looked like the Giant just got splashed with cold water. So I don't know. Scalding hot coffee, there is a reaction to a reaction to that is exclusive to hot coffee.
Right. Incredible pain. Not looking like you just got doused with some water or something. And then Mike Tenay, in his ever so excited voice, says, "What a way to open up Thunder." And I tell you what, I could not have been more excited.
It's not Schiavone. Schiavone would have told you that was the greatest spectacle in all of wrestling.
Real quick, not to sidetrack, who is at this point in time commentating on Nitro?
Heenan, and Schiavone, and then I don't know who is at this point. It's probably could be Zbyszko. It could be Tenay. They might be rotating that third position.
What do you mean at this point? Like at the end of its run, or are you talking about right now?
No, like right now. So like Thunder's on Thursday, like so Monday night when Monday Nitro rolls around. Who's commentating?
Yeah, he's saying who's the three-man team over there.
Yeah.
On Nitro?
Yeah, right.
I don't think it's Zbyszko yet. I'm pretty sure it's. I think it's still Tenay, Schiavone, Heenan, and then Lee Marshall shows up on Thursdays, and then they kind of switch around between those four. I think they just add the fourth guy on Thunder,
and they might. I'm not sure. And then they do mention here that Hall and Nash are tag champs, so something happened between last Thunder and this Thunder that Hall and Nash are champs and the Steiners are no longer champs. So we'll find out later what that is. But at the meantime, I was like, oh, okay. They just kind of casually threw that out there. And then we get our third replay already of the show, and it's from Nitro. The NWO faction's all coming out in different limos because, again, they have 100 members and they need to be in different cars. And they showed J.J. Dillon, who says that last week, of course, on Nitro, Savage punched Eric Bischoff, and he's going to be fined $5,000 because even though Eric Bischoff is a suspended member since he joined the NWO, he is still an executive member of the WCW, and therefore is a man in a position that Savage is not allowed to strike. So Savage gets a $5,000 fine. And then they showed the replay of, looks like a tag team title match between the Outsiders and the Steiners. And Randy Savage goes to the top rope. Nash looks like he's pinning Rick Steiner or something. Nash moves out of the way. Savage drops a top rope elbow on Rick Steiner, and that's going to lead to the Outsiders winning the title. And Savage is not happy that he just helped Nash win the title. And they show after Nitro's off the air, Randy Savage slaps Kevin Nash.
And runs.
Yes. So that's kind of what's going on right now. Is that's why the Outsiders are champs, and it's furthering that story that we're building tonight of Randy Savage and Kevin Nash, and apparently their dismay and hatred towards each other.
So are we getting closer here to the splitting of NWO? I assume.
I feel like it still wasn't happening that quickly, but maybe we are.
I think it happened after WrestleMania.
Too,
I think it happens after WrestleMania time. So I think it's like not till April.
Oh, dude,
when you see like a true division. You know what, dude. I'm thinking it was like April though. April, or I would say late April, when I think the Wolfpack kind of really happened. Because at this point, the leader of the Wolfpack was Nash, and Nash at this point is still like buddy with Hogan. So that divide hasn't happened yet.
Okay.
Finally, now we get our opening bout of the night, which now we're 2 weeks in a row where it was, freaking half hour worth of replays and promos and shit before we get our opening bout. And we get a great opening bout. Black Cat, Ohhara, and Guido versus the Steiner brothers and Ray Trailer. I don't know why we've booked this as our opening bout, but here we are.
Gee, I wonder who's going to win this match.
Yeah. It was, but the big news as this match is getting ready to get started is DDP was mugged after Nitro. This is breaking news. Why? How is this breaking news? If DDP was mugged after Nitro on Monday, like, what did they know on Monday? And maybe that would be the breaking story to open Thunder. Instead, they're just now bringing it up. And they said it's a right knee injury, and they're acting like they're getting like piece by piece news. Like it's all of a sudden it's like, wait, we're hearing it's a right knee injury. Oh, hang on, there's some more. DDP might not be able to wrestle. And then Lee Marshall comes in with a Golden Globe like performance and says, I can't believe this. This is really unbelievable. And JJ Dillon apparently is having a heated discussion backstage with DDP about his ability to perform in tonight's main event. And this to me was just like, how are they just now learning about this injury, this mugging that happened 3 days ago?
I don't know who the writing team is with this that goes, how does chronologically, how do you go 3 days after a mugging to find out that one of your biggest draws in your company was mugged? DDP's at the show already. He's there. So we know we would have found out this information long ago. And once again, we were 13 years old, 12 years old. I'm sure we did not question this or wonder about the order of events and why this didn't make sense. So I think they get away with that. But, it's weird to watch this as an adult and really, our job is to critique this.
But not everyone was 13 that was watching.
Everybody was 13, Haddix. Everybody was literally 13 years old.
Not everyone was 13, man.
You were 11, and you weren't watching Thunder.
No, I wasn't.
So it's just funny. While you guys were sitting there chatting just now, I had to look. The opening of Nitro this past week was Mike Tenay, Tony Schiavone, and Larry Zbyszko. And then Heenan, I forgot, comes in later. So he swaps out for one of them. I don't know who.
I would probably say Tenay, because Tenay at some point probably gets involved in a storyline on Monday. So he probably leaves to do that.
It could be. So there's your answer, Haddix.
Okay.
But anyways, as for this match, I gotta say Ray Traylor was rocking some solid sweatshirt and leather pants.
Dude.
I don't know what some of these uniforms are in these... In this year, in the between him and Spicoli, man, I don't know what these guys are wearing.
He's a short sleeve shirt away from Spicoli.
My boy Louis Spicoli. You don't hate on Louis, okay?
And also, Heenan subs out for Zbyszko. So there's your answer, over the journalist. Anyways, as far as this match goes, they literally do not care about it as much as we didn't care about it. Before they go to commercial break, they don't call a single move of this match. They discuss the DDP situation and what might happen in the main event. Nothing. It's not until they come back from commercial break that they even mention that there's a match going on. And at that point, it's basically Scott Steiner just wrecking everybody. And, pretty much probably hurting dudes a little bit, tossing them around. And naturally, this is pushing that storyline of him and Rick that we were talking about last week, where Rick's calling for a tag on the outside, and Scott's not having any part of it. Eventually, Rick's going to go to the top rope, thinking they're going to do the top rope bulldog. Scott's going to do the Steiner screwdriver. They're going to win. For me, it was a 2-star match. Basically for the storytelling of the Rick and Scott eventual split, but other than that, it was okay. I don't know. There wasn't much else to say it. What did you think about it?
I think I also gave it 2 stars. Again, I'm kind of coming from it, like we've talked about before. I'm coming from a WWE Attitude Era thing, and God, some of these matches are just so boring for me. I have absolutely no interest in anything going on, and yeah, that's really all I can say. 2 stars.
I really actually liked the storyline. Even when they were coming out to the ring, you actually had Traylor and Rick Steiner up front, and then you just had Scott in the back, just kind of posing and pumping his arms in the air. So you can already tell that this is kind of written in stone that Scott's on his way out, and I mean, yeah, Scott. This was basically a Scott Steiner highlight reel match. I gave it 2 stars. The storytelling was pretty good. The match was so-so.
Yeah. After this, I just had to mention the first sign of the night where they spelled woo with the WHOOO, so people need to learn that is who and not woo. After that, we get a Slim Jim commercial, and then we get another Kyle WCW Saturday Night promo. That
fuck this
sucks.
thing. I don't even give a fuck about this thing anymore.
It really doesn't.
I'm angry.
All they said is, and they don't even show you matchups or anything like that. They show the anatomy, the computer graphics, and they let us know that the Steiner brothers, DDP, and Public Enemy are all in the card, and Marty Jannetty is returning to WCW. So that's interesting, and that's about all we've got about Saturday night. So following this, we have our match that the commentary team, Kyle, letting us know that it's going to be their trial run for a potential martial arts division with Wrestling Rules.
Also known as a wrestling match.
Yeah, pretty much.
The moment they said with Wrestling Rules, I'm like, I'm sorry, but I didn't know that there was are they just doing that to have like a little like cute little tournament? They want to add a new belt? Like there's really not a whole lot of information to discuss like what this actually will turn out to be. But if it's going to be wrestling moves, like anybody could have this match. You just do punches and kicks and sweeps and whatever the hell.
Right.
Yeah, it was just I don't know. Like I don't remember this at all, a martial arts division.
Well, I have a feeling it doesn't last very long.
I figure as much. For
that reason, because they probably they probably looked at this trial match and realized, man, this is pretty much a regular wrestling match with just a few more, high kicks and knees and stuff like that.
Or they realized they literally had 2 people. Like they're like, let's showcase these 2 guys. And they're like, oh crap, that's the only 2 guys in the division.
Unfortunately, Glacier is not yet here to bring a little bit of validity. And
well, he's there. There. They're just not using him. He's definitely there.
Is he here now?
He has to be, because I have WCW versus NWO World Tour, which was a video game in '97, and Glacier was one of the guys in the like a playable character. So yes, he's on the roster in some way, shape, or form.
If he is, I'm going to be sad that we missed all the hype for him, because he had a big push.
That is true, and yeah, like I said, I'm pretty sure. I mean, let's keep going. I'll look up some Glacier stuff while you keep going.
Okay. So this match, of course, does not include Glacier. It's going to be Eugene Nagata versus Ernest the Cat Miller. And the match starts out, and I don't know about what you thought, Kyle, but the Ernest does almost like a Sweet Chin Music or something, and just kicks the fuck out of Eugene Nagata. And I'm like, dude, is this how the match is going to be over just like that? And he got a near 3 count. But I was like, I almost wanted it to end just like that, because I was like, that is amazing.
There was a big part of me that thought this was going to be like a real quick squash match, and I would have been, especially for, this is a potential martial arts division match, and it's over in 20 seconds.
He just kicks his head off and be done. Yeah. As far as the match, though, I was actually pretty entertained by this match, with the exception of one point where they showed a terrible camera angle to show pile driver. I think Eugene Nagata did to Ernest the Cat, and it looked so bad. Like you can tell that he didn't hit his head on the mat at all. Like it was just bad looking. I don't know if you noticed that pile driver or not, but it was not pretty.
And we've seen Lex do a pile driver, and that was, so we know what ugly pile drivers look like.
Right. Eventually, Nagata is going to push the ref, which gives Ernest Miller a chance to sort of flip himself up. He was laying in the corner, one of the turnbuckle corners, on the ground, and he kind of flipped himself up to the top rope and did a reverse spinning heel kick that they call the feedliner, and that's going to give him the 3 count. I gotta say, I gave this match 2.5 stars. It really surprised me at first. I was like, oh god, Eugene Nagata, and the Cat, this is probably not going to be very good. Pleasantly surprised, 2.5 stars for me. What'd you think?
I felt the same way. I thought that this is before someone better call my mama I'm the greatest, Ernest the Cat Miller that we all know and love. And it's coming soon, so I'm excited. I gave it 2.5 stars as well. I think the only kind of downside to this match was the ref picking his nose at some point during a blatant kick from Sonny Ono, which is, I don't understand how a ref can be that out of position at the start of a match. But he was literally just looking around like he was just dazed and confused. But yeah, I was actually very entertained. Obviously not a technical wrestling masterpiece, but obviously these 2 guys, you don't need to have that. So 2.5 stars.
And you were correct, Kyle. April of 96 was when Glacier's vignette started running.
Dude, let's bring back up the Monday Night Tours.
I was going to say,
we were just there.
We may need to switch back to the Monday Night Tours just for that, because, man, that would be awesome to see. But you were correct, so he is well around. So maybe he will be running this, martial arts division at some point. I had to laugh, though. After the match, they're showing the Snickers replay, and Tenay's kind of calling, and all of a sudden you hear Heenan go, and Tenay's like, "What are you laughing at?" And Heenan goes, "I'm not. I'm snickering." That was classic. I loved that line so much. Like, Heenan is just 2 weeks in a row. He's been just on fire on commentary. He's just such an American treasure.
Well, he's so quick. He's just so quick. Like, that. It feels like he doesn't write anything. I think he just is. He just goes with whatever he thinks is good to do at the time. It's just exactly.
Who is not naturally witty is going to be J.J. Dillon, who's out here with Tony Schiavone following this match. And apparently they've got audio issues because Tony's asking J.J. Dillon what he knows about this Diamond Dallas Page injury situation, and J.J. Dillon just keeps on talking, and you don't hear anything. By the time they get a microphone that's going to work, DDP's out, and he basically says he's out here, like you said, on a crutch, and he's said, "No matter what, I'm wrestling tonight. I told these fans I would be. I'll be out there." And J.J. Dillon says, "I have to watch, basically for lawsuits. I can't have an injured guy going out there and wrestling because, WCW could get in trouble, could be held responsible." And DDP says, I'm not going to sue. I'm not like that. WCW's off the hook. I'll sign off on it if I have to." So, big babyface move right there, Kyle, saying that he's not going to sue the WCW if he wrestles injured, right?
What a good guy. What I loved about that is that he did a promo as if letting WCW off the hook was a pop-worthy thing to do. Like, "I'm letting you off the hook," and he laughed. And were we all supposed to clap for that?
That's when you lose your mind.
Instead of feel the bank, that was his feel the bank for that interview.
After this, we're gonna get Louis Spicolli versus Scott Hall. But before the match, Kyle, our MVP of the night has to be the woman in the crowd who was had all these concession foods in her hands. She had stacks of cups and her stacked on top of each other, the soft drinks, and her husband's just mowing down some nachos and just letting her struggle. Did you notice her?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, she had either it was 2 boxes of something, and then there was a drink on top of it. It was it looked like that if they were to keep the camera on here for another 20 seconds, it was not going to end well.
No, right.
While her man was just completely ignoring her, just enjoying some nachos.
Just enjoying some nachos, man. At this point, we see the second sign in the crowd that says "Who," not "Woo." I'm going to keep a who count every week until this air gets fixed by the fans, and I have a feeling it's not going to.
Maybe these people are from Whoville, right?
Right. So Spicoli's going to get into the ring. He's, of course, rocking that inside-out black T-shirt and some track pants. And out comes Scott Hall, who's rocking the 2 tag team titles now, Kyle. He's got the bogus belt and the real championship now that him and Nash won on Monday night. And he's going to do survey time, which I don't know about you, but I did miss, the survey time surveys. So I'm glad to see these. He gets out there and asks, did you come to see the WCW or the NWO? And it's sort of a mixed crowd. It might be a little bit more for WCW. And, of course, he still ends it with, "That's one more for the good guys." And then Scott Hall, before the match, he's going to talk to Louis Spicolli, and he's going to ask him, how old, who he came to see. And he said, "Oh, I'm here to see the NWO and Six and Hall and Nash." He's a big NWO mark. And they ask him how old he is, and he said he's 26 and he'll be 27 next month. This is sad for a couple of reasons. One, because he looks about 45, right?
He doesn't look good for his age.
I about shit I'm like, he's lying. And I looked it up. Nope, sure enough. And he actually will die 5 days following his 27th birthday. So it's pretty unfortunate, but he was big into drugs and stuff. And,
Yeah, for a guy who doesn't look 26 going on 27, I guess at that point I'm not shocked.
Right.
But it's still, it sucks when anyone dies that early.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So it looks like a match might not be happening, but out comes Larry Zbyszko, who basically tells Spicoli that he's getting played by Hall. Hall's afraid of him. You need to wrestle this guy. And they cut to the crowd before anything else takes place, Kyle. And this is my third sign of the night where I see Vince fears Elmo. So, obviously,
well, of course, I mean, 1997, that holiday season, Tickle Me Elmo was the toy of the year.
Yeah.
Yep, 97 was Tickle Me Elmo.
So there you go. So Louis Spicoli is actually going to attack Larry Zbyszko from behind. So this is his heel turn, Kyle. He is
the
now
swerve of all swerves.
You didn't see this one coming. And then he's going to, of course, hold Larry Zbyszko. Hall's going to come charging at him. Zbyszko is going to flip Hall out of the ring. And Spicoli's going to be shocked, not realize what's going on. Of course, he's going to get attacked by Larry Zbyszko now. Larry looks strong, and that is your segment, Kyle.
There was a part of me that was actually hoping that after he floored Zbyszko in the back, Spicoli, that he was going to get like all pumped up and jazzed and take off his shirt, which would mean that if he were to rip his shirt off, it would be outside out. It would actually be right side out. And then I could find out what the hell that shirt was, because you could see there was a graphic. Like, first I thought it was a dirty shirt, but I realized no, it's just an inside out shirt. And I was curious if maybe it was the innovator of the Death Valley Driver shirt again, and they didn't want him to wear that. I don't know, but like maybe he got in trouble for wearing it last time, because I don't remember the late great Louis Spicoli being the innovator of the Death Valley Driver. But then again, at the same time, I have not done my Wikipedia research to back that up.
I did, in fact, and that is what he was credited for, but they say that the actual first person to innovate the Death Valley Driver was a female wrestler, I believe, out of Japan. So
I believe that more.
They call bullshit on Louis on that one, but he is, quote-unquote, known for that. After this, we're going to get our fourth replay of the night. And it's from Nitro this past week, where Mongo McMichael is going to do a jumping tombstone pile driver to Chris Jericho, and Chris Jericho is going to be jobbing to Steve Mongo McMichael, Kyle.
I never would have thought I'd see it. I didn't even want to. I actually, as soon as I saw him get hit with the tombstone, I actually clicked on the WWE Network to fast forward it by 20 seconds. I didn't want to see him pin him.
You don't want to believe this. Don't worry, Jericho's going to get on the mic afterwards and say, "You will never, ever see that again."
I believe him.
And I'm going to be honest, I bet he never jobs to Mongo McMichael again. But
hey, man, that's former United States champion and former Four Horseman, Mongo McMichael.
Yes, unfortunately it is. And then they're going to show Chris Jericho is going to attack Rey Mysterio on Nitro. Of course, Mysterio is going to have a Cruiserweight Championship match against Juventud Guerrera, who, of course, just won the title on Thunder last week. Yeah, so... the rematch, since Mysterio could not perform on Monday night, he's going to get his rematch tonight on Thunder. He
did have the match. Guerrero won the match. It was just they felt that it wasn't fair that...
Oh, did he have the match?
They still had the match. It was just that Ray had a hard time doing anything, and Guerrero ultimately won the match, I think, pretty easily because he was beaten up. And also, I just want to say one thing. How fun... I understand that it's another human being and you really don't want to hurt anybody, but I think of back in the day when you and I and all our friends would go to the high jump mat or use or do the trampoline matches, and you always wanted to it was always fun to have that one small person come because you can just basically toss that person around. And I thought that with Jericho and Rey Mysterio, but Jericho was like, dude, this is the only opportunity that I'm going to have to feel like Andre the Giant. Well, and he just flew him around like it was nothing.
It's funny you say that because I kind of thought the same thing, and actually, when we get to the Cruiserweight title match, I felt like it was the same way in that match, too, where it's everybody just is oh, great, we get this guy that weighs 110 pounds, and we can just throw him all over the place and look strong for guys that are, we're 180 pounds, and we get to treat this guy like, the Giant would treat us or something.
It's amazing, even in the Cruiserweight division, there's still a guy that's that much smaller than anybody else in the Cruiserweight division.
Right. That said, the next match is a number one contendership for the Cruiserweight title at Sold Out. And out's coming Chris Jericho, and he'll be wrestling Eddie Guerrero. So Jericho's going to get on the mic and say that the reason he attacked Rey Mysterio on Monday night was Rey was talking under his breath that in a way that only Chris could hear in the ring. And because he's a role model and has to stand up for himself, he took care of Rey Mysterio. So seems logical. Seems, makes sense.
And he did wish Rey best of luck in his. He gets another match tonight for the Cruiserweight title. So clearly, Jericho's his heart's in the right place.
That's right, absolutely. Then we're gonna get our fourth sign of the night, Kyle. The WWF bank account is $10. So if it says that in the crowd, I gotta believe it's true.
That's the rule of the signs. Everybody knows something back then. He must have called up a Mean Gene. He must have told him that.
Right. As for this match, I quite enjoyed this match. You got a little bit of mixture of both, a little high flying moves, but then also kind of some good mat wrestling. And you got, for a heel versus heel match, which is kind of what this was. You had Eddie Guerrero at one point doing that abdominal stretch spot where he keeps grabbing the ropes for leverage, and then the ref would look at him and he looks like he's scratching his back or something like that, and then you
once again, this is a heel versus heel match, I feel like both of them were heels,
right? I mean,
at this point,
Guerrero's wrestling like a heel in this match, using the ropes for leverage and stuff like that, and
his mannerisms too. Like he comes down to the ring like a heel. Right. He kind of taunts a bit like a heel. So yeah, we know that Jericho's a heel.
Right.
So
Jericho's obviously doing mic work of the heel. So yeah, they're both wrestling as heels at this point. There's one spot where Eddie's going to do the gory special, they call it. I'm not actually sure what the gory special is supposed to be. I just know it's homage to his dad or something like that. Whatever it is.
The gory special is you kind of get picked up like, think of it like an upside down piggyback ride where your feet are up in the air, but your head and shoulders are lower. And then when he falls down, it almost looks like a pile driver.
Yeah.
So, but it was totally botched. Like
it was
fell backwards.
It looked ugly. It looked really ugly.
Painful.
This match, though, it's going to come to the end. Eddie's going to go for Hurricanrana, which Jericho's going to reverse into a lion tamer. I gave this match 3 stars. Jericho's going to win. I really enjoyed this match, and I thought the reversal into the lion tamer at the end was a good finish too. So I thoroughly enjoyed this match.
I actually was surprised that Jericho won, just because it felt like a lot of his angle has been him being a baby when he loses, like just acting out and being shitty when he loses. And so for that, I was kind of surprised. I might have given it close to 3 stars, but there were some botched moments, especially the gory special, which I think was supposed to be a big spot, which would have been a really good, a really good spot for the match that was totally messed up. And I think that's the reason why I hit this pretty hard, because I think that was going to be one of the bigger bumps, one of the more memorable parts of the match. And you got to hit those. If you're gonna use a move like that, especially paying homage to his dad, that was his finisher. You should know how to do it, whether that was Jericho's fault or not. Jericho, even though he is like barely a cruiserweight, I think it's anything under 215. He was probably like 214 at this time. So maybe it's just Eddie was just not ready for the weight of the guy that he was taking on. But it's a big spot. You can't mess it up. So I gave it 2.5.
After this, we're going to get our 5th replay of the night, and this is Jim Neidhart making his debut on Nitro. And he says, Flair is a good technician, but he says he is not the best. And Flair comes out and basically says, if you think Brett's the best, say it to my face. And Jim Neidhart and Flair are going to get it in each other's face, and Jim's going to say he was born with his wrestling gear on. And Flair says, I'll be right back. Let me go get mine on. At this point, I know it's technically a replay on Nitro, but we're going to get our 5th sign of the night, our 3rd Who sign. And Jim Neidhart's in the ring. He's going to get some dick knuckles to the face.
I'm glad you said dick knuckles.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's an homage to our Monday Night Tours podcast. If you guys haven't listened, they are just brass knucks. Jim Neidhart's going to get put in the figure 4 around the ring post, which of course is vintage Bret Hart. That's enough to piss Bret off, and he's going to come out for the save, thus kind of pushing the Bret Hart-Ric Flair feud further, while also introducing Jim Neidhart. I thought this was a good segment here. I mean, I know it's a replay from Nitro, but I like what they're doing in that storytelling.
And I kind of forgot that Jim defected, but then again, I'm like, wait, I know he left because he left right after the screw job as well.
Right.
I think he kind of backed with Hart,
and I think Bulldog comes around.
I think
now
so.
too.
I think Owen's the only one that stayed.
I think Bulldog might actually be hurt right now, but he signed with WCW, and then when he's healthy, he'll come back. I know at one point Bulldog does come back to the W. I think before he passes away, I think he does come back to the WWE one. Oh, he does.
Time.
Oh, yeah, he's back for sure. After this, we're going to get the Chavo Guerrero Jr. He's going to be wrestling Bill Goldberg, Kyle, and Heenan's going to start before the match or before the guys even come out and says where do they want the body sent. So Goldberg already getting pushed as this.
Chavo looks like he's 12. This is baby Chavo.
He is very young.
He's almost as big as Rey Mysterio.
So Chavo gets in the ring, and you're waiting for Goldberg, and instead you hear Disco Fever, and out comes Disco Inferno. He's dancing all over the place, up and down, and in the ring post, the whole ordeal. Finally, he gets on the mic and tells Chavo that no one came to see Chavo; they came to see me dance. And Chavo cuts what might be the worst promo I've ever heard, where he says, "First of all, you can't dance. Secondly, this isn't your match. And third, what kind of name is Disco?"
You know what? Leave him alone. I actually thought it wasn't half bad.
Oh, I thought this was awful. I thought he sounded so bad here.
I think I was just surprised they even gave Chavo the mic. Like, he didn't need to. I felt like this is one of those things where I thought that maybe Chavo would complain, but he would complain off mic. Like, they wouldn't actually give him like a spot on the mic. So right. I was at least like surprised by that, and it wasn't bad. The only part of it I didn't like was what kind of name is Disco Inferno? Like he was doing his inner Jerry Seinfeld. Like, what's the deal with Disco Inferno?
I think that's what bothered me. Is I felt like it felt unscripted, and Chavo was like grasping at straws for things to say, and that's why he's like, and what kind of name is Disco Inferno, anyways? It just didn't sound good. But then he says, "You can't wrestle. I know that. The fans know that. Everybody in the back knows that." And Disco basically says he's not going to go anywhere. And then he's going to give him the Stone Cold Stunner to Chavo. Gives him a couple middle fingers afterwards, I assume.
A couple beers.
Right. That takes Chavo out of the equation. Of course, Goldberg's going to come down at this point. And Disco's going to take a spear and a jackhammer for Goldberg. And, they're going to continue to talk about how Goldberg's undefeated. So apparently that means Goldberg got a victory for this match. I don't know.
If anything, I would say that Disco interfered and hit Chavo. Therefore, your winner and the first blemish on Goldberg's record via disqualification is Chavo Guerrero Jr.
Chavo Guerrero. And at this point, they apologize for video problems due to Thunder, actually. There's a thunderstorm going on in Florida, and they're saying that's causing video problems, which made me laugh. But also, because it's on the network, we're not getting those video problems.
I was wondering about that, because when they first said having video problems, I first thought to myself, I don't see any video problems, but yeah, that makes sense now.
Yep. After this, we're going to get our sixth replay of the night. It's J.J. Dillon's announcement about the title situation from Thunder last week, where he said that, title's been vacated, and Sting calls him tells him he has no guts, and that, Hogan's a dead man. Then we're going to get the promo for Eric Bischoff and Hogan. They're going to come out. Hogan's going to kiss a poster of himself on the way out. And commentary team, Kyle, you mentioned basically how they say the NWO's been unraveling since Hogan has lost the title.
Yeah, it was just, which is kind of true. I feel like they obviously they mentioned that Hogan lost the title. It's been unraveling, like they actually need it to survive. Like, the moment that it felt like everything in NWO was perfect, like they were a cohesive group. There was no dissension at all, but the night that Hogan quote unquote lost the title, it just seemed like this whole storyline of the NWO just like breaking apart just all came in like so fast. Like it's like every other segment or like every week is something else about the NWO and the dissension. And I'm sure they were coming to the arenas in 2 limos, but now they're paying more attention to it. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Eric's going to get on the mic at this point, and he's going to thank Hogan. He says he has 1.5 million reasons to thank Hogan or something like that. Then Hogan's going to get out there and do poetry about why, oh, why does J.J. Dillon have to lie? And then says something about because you are the champ, Hogan, because God
he was talking
looking at him.
he was talking to God,
Yeah, it was a weird segment from Hogan. And
I love heel Hogan. Heel Hogan does a much better promo.
I just think he's more it's so weird to me, like, Hogan was the biggest thing in all of wrestling for, how long, 20 years or something like that before he turns heel. And to me, he just seems more like a natural heel when it's all said and done. No,
I think it's just one of those things where and you've been saying this, like, he's been acting like a heel as a face. So it was an easy transition for him to go that way. And you can only do the prayers and the vitamins so many times before it doesn't stick anymore. So
sure,
I think
what I was going to say, though, it's amazing. Hogan was one of the biggest faces of all time, right? And here he's probably one of the biggest heels of all time, too, you could argue. And he might even be a better heel than face, but, he was almost as good at being a face as he was at being a heel, which it's not something you can say about, most guys. Like, you look at most of these big, people who were heels and faces, there's usually one role they're better at than the other. Ric Flair is always a much better heel than he was a face.
I think it's like the mystique of Hogan, like just the aura of him, that where it doesn't matter what he is, whatever he's going to be, the crowd is going to react to Hogan.
And he knows how to make them react, though. He just does so, when he cuts these heel promos, it's like, wow, you never would have guessed that this guy was, a year ago.
Pastamania,
2 years ago.
it was 2 years ago.
Right. He was just, let me tell you something, brother Jack, dude, all my Hulkamaniacs are going to take their vitamins and go to sleep. And now he's just telling them that he's too tan and that they can all suck it,
He's just too tan now.
Bischoff is going to finish his promo out by basically saying he agrees with Sting that JJ has no guts, or he'd give the title back to Hogan. So a little reversal there, but they both agree that JJ is pussying his way out of this decision, which I have to agree with. And he's going to end it by demanding the title goes back to Hogan.
And also they also made a very good point that they had this big old promo about basically Sting and J.J. Dillon and the title, but not once did they kind of skirted around the whole thing that Macho Man's trying to beat the shit out of your number one guy in the NWO. Like, what's the deal with that? And they definitely made a point to say why didn't he address that? Why didn't they come out here and assure everybody that everything's taken care of? So I just thought that was interesting as well. Oh,
that the commentary team mentioned that?
Yes. When the interview was over, they're like, we knew all this stuff. Right. They just came out here and just kind of, blew hot air in our faces for 5 minutes about shit we already knew. So we figured they were going to come out here and say, hey, we have we're here to support, Macho Man and Nash for their match tonight. Kind of like back them up and say everything's good, we'll be fine. But instead they came out on their own agenda and basically just ignored the real elephant in the room, which is how are Nash and Savage going to coexist?
Right. After this, we get a Slim Jim promo, and then we're going to get our Cruiserweight Championship match, Juventud Guerrera versus Rey Mysterio Jr. And Mike Tenay is going to start before the match to let Heenan know that DDP is the other man in the main event. And which made me laugh because Heenan was saying something, he kind of stopped, and Tenay's, he was talking about, he's like, Lex Luger and Tenay's like DDP, and he's like, I know, I'm looking at my notes here.
I love that. I was just looking at my notes.
This match, Kyle, we kind of talked about Juventud Guerrera has his way with Rey Mysterio for a while in this match, and he's doing a lot of, moves that, he probably feels great, I can pick Rey up and toss him around and carry him, and he's doing neck breakers and shoulder breakers, and at one point he does sort of like a top rope, or a top, a plancha to the outside, but it turns into a downward spear kind of move onto Rey, which looked a little nasty.
I think it was played as a headbutt because he kind of headbutts him into him.
He kind of looked like it was like a dive or something. It was weird. And Lee Marshall at one point, Kyle does his best Mongo impression by mentioning that they are the most popular masked Mexican since Zorro. So, thankfully,
he'll never be able to top Mongo. He could try. Could be imitated, or what's the phrase? Often imitated, never duplicated.
Right. Yeah, that was Lee Marshall right there. Did you notice that one move at one point? Hoovy goes he tries to do almost like a leg drop where he's inside the ring and he's gonna flip himself over the top rope and come down to the outside, but he goes and he kind of does a standing leg drop or something. It looked like it just was not landed the way he wanted to land, and he almost stood and kind of just jumped over him.
I gave him credit for that because yes, he tried to kind of springboard from the inside of the ring over to the outside into a leg drop, which is, I think, it's easily fucked. You could easily fuck that up.
It's probably not going to feel good even if you land it right.
Right, and so no, he botched it, but I kind of gave him the benefit of the doubt because that's a hard one to try and pull off, and it's one of those things too where there's no room for you on the outside to extend your leg like that anyway. So Rey has to be in the absolute perfect spot, which I think he was probably off maybe by 2 or 3 inches to pull off that move. So it required a lot of small adjustments in order to make that move perfect, and it just didn't work out.
Yeah. Eventually, Rey's going to kind of get it back. There's going to be a lot of reversals back and forth. Hoovy is going to block a top rope hurricanrana from attempt by Rey Mysterio into a powerbomb. He's going to get up for the 450. Rey's going to move, and Hoovy's going to land on his feet, actually, from the 450. And Rey's going to do a hurricanrana right then and there. And that's going to lead to a 3 count. I thought this match was fantastic. Rey's your new champion. 3.5 stars for me. I thought they gave the match a lot of time to breathe. They went back and forth. The Hoovy dominated for a bit. It was high flying. I thought the finish was great. Loved it. 3.5 stars.
I gave it 3 because I don't think it was perfect. I think we're going to see better cruiserweight matches that I can recall. So I don't want to give a 4 or a 3.5 or something like that and then find something that just really blows us out of the water. I feel bad for Hoovy because I feel like he had a match for the title on Thursday. He had to defend it on Monday, and they had to defend it again on Thursday, and now he's going to lose it. I think 2 weeks later or it's not 2 weeks, it's 12 days, right? So that sold out so I don't think it's next week, it's the week after. And I know that he loses the title to Jericho. So this title is like hot potato. Going back and forth, but I did enjoy the match for what it was.
Spoiling the Jericho sold out match, dude. Come on.
Hey, this isn't called sold out craps, okay? This is Thunder craps. But yeah, the match was pretty good. I love the in ring psychology where Hoovy was kind of obviously not Hoovy, but Rey was playing the face in peril, and he was just getting his shit kicked in. Hoovy worked him really well and looked really good doing it, and he just also made Rey look good. So, I mean, either guy, that's one thing I've always liked about the Cruiserweight division is I feel like when you have a good match, it almost just seems like either one of them just barely escapes with a win. And this was, no different. It's not like it's not like your normal match where it feels like a guy is setting up for his finisher, like a Hogan leg drop or something like that, where it's coming. This just takes you by surprise. So I gave it 3 stars.
No, nice. In the crowd, you're going to see, at this point, 2 more signs, Kyle. One says, "No egg roll here, just win." I don't know what that means.
No idea.
I'm confused.
I think it's maybe and I'm just taking a stab in the dark, that maybe this guy's thinking never mind, I'm thinking fortune cookies. No, I have no idea. I have nothing now.
And then we're going to get our Who sign, the 4th of the night.
No, is this the same? When you keep saying, is this a different sign or is it the same bald guy?
No, this is 4 different signs that have said Who instead of Woo. Yeah. And then, Kyle, you mentioned in your notes that Chad's asking Belinda to marry him live on Thunder. Was that a sign?
It was a sign, which is even worse, which means she's not there, I don't think.
She's watching at home, and hopefully Belinda was told Chad yes, and then he could say, Who, right?
And it's over.
After this, we're going to get our 7th replay of the night. This is from Nitro on Monday. Liz is coming to the ringside. She's calling for Lex Luger. She's crying. She's upset. Lex comes to her aid, which turns
was this in the middle of a Lex match? Was Lex in the middle of wrestling?
I got the impression he was, yeah.
Isn't that kind of ridiculous that he's in the middle of a match and she was able to just be like, here, just leave that match and come with me?
Hey,
it's a friend of the audacity of Liz.
You know,
no, but the audacity of Liz to just come out in the middle of his match and just be like, this is more important than your livelihood. You need to get out of the ring and help me.
Well, he totally, bit it hook, line, and sinker, which leads to a Randy Savage attack on him, and it ends with Liz slapping the shit out of Lex, so he got what he deserved for falling for it.
Don't worry, Lex gets his comeuppance in a couple of years in real life. Too soon?
Yeah.
Too soon?
Rough.
I'm just saying, it's not untrue.
That's fair point. Then we're going to move to our main event, Kyle. Kevin Nash and Randy Savage versus DDP and Lex Luger. Of course, Hogan coming out here, Miss Elizabeth coming out here. And Mike Tenay is totally startled by the amount of pyros that are going off for the NWO for this main event. And it's worth noting, Savage comes out and Hogan and Nash are trailing far behind him, so maybe there is some dissension still there. Lex comes out, DDP's hobbling out. Lex basically tells DDP, hey man, you're hurt, don't worry, I got this, take care of yourself. So DDP is not going to wrestle, I don't think, and Luger's going to take care of Nash and Savage, little handicap action here. But that said, DDP's still going to come out there, and Hogan's going to beat the shit out of DDP with that crutch, so DDP is really done at this point.
Which wouldn't that still be, even though the match is still considered a tag match, like DDP's still technically part of this match. Wouldn't that be a DQ immediately?
It would make a lot of sense that it would be. But
also, does Hogan get fined like everybody else has for attacking other wrestlers, like and interfering in matches like that?
They're not getting. That's fair. Yeah, because
JT Dillon's been passing out fines it's candy on Halloween.
Everybody who's been fined has been fined for touching executives and referees.
No, but that's not true though, because Lex got fined and they had to reverse the decision with Chris Adams.
They reversed the decision. I don't think they fined Lex.
Oh, maybe you're right.
But I'm just splitting hairs there. So the match, as for this tag match goes, basically Savage and Nash don't want to tag each other, and at one point there was even like a almost tag, but it didn't happen because I think Savage or Nash moves his hand, and Randy Anderson goes, no tag. So a lot of Nash and Savage not getting along here, and Hogan trying to play mediator, trying to get him to get along. Eventually, Nash is going to tag in Savage by slapping the absolute fuck out of him. That one looked actually.
What's great? What's great about that? The reason why I appreciate that, because Savage would have wanted Nash to slap the fuck out of him.
Oh yeah,
like he is on another stratosphere as far as just being like, dude, sell this. So if Nash would have probably just hit him just like nicely, I guarantee you, like, Savage would have gone off him in the back, like, dude, you pussy, why don't you hit me whenever we were out there? I was actually glad that Nash gave him the business.
Yep. Of course, Savage is going to go to the top rope, and he wants to attack Nash, who's on the outside. But Luger's going to pull Savage back in the ring, and eventually this match sort of falls all apart. Luger's going to end up putting the torture rack on Hogan. He's going to rack Kevin Nash. Savage is going to accidentally hit Luger by mistake which sounds funny to say it that way, but I think Nash moved out of the way and Savage hit Luger instead. Hogan is then going to kick Savage after Lex moves, so Hogan has now hit Savage and upset him. Out comes the Giant, which is going to...
Because why not?
Yeah, right? Hogan's going to get pushed into him, and he basically craps his pants as he turns around. He's going to take a chokeslam. Giant's going to threaten Kevin Nash, who seems scared at first, but then, of course, he realizes, oh shit, the Giant can't touch me, so he starts laughing at him. Out comes the NWO lackeys to attack the Giant, and it's at this point now that the bell's called for. I just had to ask, was this the moment that Randy Anderson's like, nope, this is enough?
No, I was actually trying to pay attention to him. He actually calls for the bell a long time ago, but no one actually rings it. The first time he actually calls for the bell is when Hogan gets put in the torture rack. So I think that was which would be the appropriate time to call for the bell, because Hogan is now 100% put in this match. Right. But here's the thing. If this was Hogan, and someone came into his match and tried to stop him, and Hogan beat the shit out of him, you would just let the match keep going. That's Nick Patrick
Correct.
thought process. But this is a tight ship to Randy Anderson. Pee Wee Anderson is driving here. So yeah, he asked for the bell multiple times, and just the timekeeper was like, "No, I'm good." And then they finally actually did the bell once. The whole slew of NWO. Yeah.
So that said, Sting's going to come out. And between Lex, Sting, and the Giant, they're able to clear the ring. They're reigning supreme. WCW is looking strong. That's your match. Kyle, I give this a 1.5 stars. It would have been even worse, except for the fact that I thought they told a couple good stories here, and that was enough for me to give it a 1.5 stars.
I mean, I echo almost exactly what you said. I would have put this much lower if it wasn't the fact that it didn't at least progress some sort of storyline. And I mean, really, God, I think this thing progressed every single storyline. In some ways, it's like they basically just poured everybody in the ring. They pushed the Macho Nash wedge. I don't know where the fuck DDP went. DDP got laid out, and I don't know what happened to him after that.
Right.
I actually thought at some point DDP was going to do something in this match. He literally did nothing except lay down.
Hopefully he doesn't sue WCW over what happened. And
also, I think we need to start calling the main event. And once again, I know it's only the second one, but I think this does happen a lot, especially for if you think it's an important match or one that's got like high dollar guys like maybe Nash or Hogan or Savage or Lex or Sting or something like that. Be prepared for a DQ finish in almost every Thunder match.
Yeah. But that's your Thunder, Kyle. What did you think?
Overall, I thought it was a better Thunder. I saw what you put in the notes. My bad. I put Nitro accidentally when I gave him the notes, but you know what I meant. It was overall better than last week. I kind of joked this in mainly because Mongo wasn't in it, and at least the main event had some sort of, I guess, tie-in with what they're doing. The one before was just like Hogan decided to punch DDP and call for everything. And then it was interesting to have Tenay in the whole time. Like before, like you said, that we thought that maybe this is the way the Thunder was going to go, was kind of mix and match between the four of them. But really, we didn't see much of Schiavone at all, outside of a couple of
he was only in rings interviewing and stuff.
Yep. So I think it'll be much better when they get rid of Lee Marshall and you got Schiavone, the Brain, and Tenay, because that's actually a pretty formidable group.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. For me, I thought this was much better than last week. They still probably had a little bit too many replays than needed, and I think we both agree that the main event was pretty shitty, except from a storytelling, so that was okay. But overall, I thought the rest, I really enjoyed a lot of these matches. I thought the Cruiserweight title match was great. I thought the number one contender match for it was great. Hell, I enjoyed the Eugene Nagata Ernest the Cat Miller match. So overall, a much better Thunder. I think their 2 hours, they'll do them better. And I think, like to your point, if they get the commentary team where they should be, it's got some promise to it. So we'll have to see if it keeps going next week, as we'll be back, of course, reviewing the January 22nd, 1998 editions, and hopefully, Haddix can get back with us next week. Sometimes having a baby in the house, it makes it a little harder to podcast, but hopefully we'll have him back. And then in the meantime, for you fans out there, if you haven't subscribed to us yet, look for us on Twitter at this point.
It's reasonable. That's reasonable, actually.
It's excusable at this point. But of course, follow us at Thundercraps on Twitter. You can find all of our information there as we go forward, and hopefully get you more content out and kind of get a little more consistency and legitimacy to this podcast as we explore Thunder week by week. So for the absent Josh Haddix and the now Kyle Hogan,
present.
The present Kyle Hogan, we will see you guys next time.
Have a good whatever day we put this out. See you.